Hi guys, so we're actually going to start at 9.5. We started this a little bit before we got off of school, but I kind of just want to review it because it is going to be on that project that will be due later. So this will be where we start, and then we'll do 9.6, and then we'll go from there. So for completing the square, we are going to be using quadratics again. So just a reminder, quadratics are when we start with an x squared. And we're going to have this plus bx plus, and then we're going to be adding this term b divided by 2 squared. Okay, then we go into factor that, it would be x plus b over 2 squared. Okay, so key thing is just remember that a value has to be a 1. So if there's a number in front, you're going to divide each term by that. And then if this is a plus, this would be a plus. If this was a minus, this would be a minus. Okay? So the first part says find the value of c that makes the expression a perfect square trinomial. Then write the expression as a square of a binomial. So first thing we're going to do is solve for c. Okay, so my a value is 1. So we have this imaginary 1 in front. B is going to be 5. So this is my b value. And then c, we don't know, that's what we're actually going to be solving for. So we'll have c equaling. Okay, so in order to solve for my c value, we're actually going to use this formula. So b divided by 2, and then we're actually going to square it. Okay, so because I can't simplify 5 divided by 2, I'm just going to square it right away. So I take this 2 and I apply it to the 5, so that'd be 25, because 5 squared is 25. And then I take the 2 and I apply it to this 2. So 2 squared is 4. Okay, so this is what my c value would equal. Okay, and then what we are going to have to do is write it as a binomial. So a square binomial. So we're going to have x. So since this is a plus, we're going to have a plus here. And then it's going to be whatever is in that parentheses is simplified. So since we couldn't simplify 5 over 2, we're just going to write 5 over 2. And then I have this squared. So then that is the second part of that problem. Okay. So then let's look at b. Okay. So once again, my a value is 1. My b value is 8. We are unsure about the c still. Then from here, I'm going to take my b value, so 8. I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm squaring it. So once again, I'm using this right here. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I would have 4 squared, which equals 16. So that is my c value. Okay. Then I'm going to write the expression as a square of a binomial. So I'm going to have x. It's a plus here, so it'll be a plus here. And then what's in my parentheses simplified is the 4. So I'm going to have the 4, and then I add the square. Okay, so what I want you to do is pause this video, and I want you to try out both C and D and see if you get the correct answers. Okay, so for C, my A value is 1. My B value is negative 12. And then we are looking for the C value. So I'm going to do negative 12 divided by 2 squared. So negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6 squared. Well, negative 6 squared is going to be a positive 36. So that's my C value there. Okay, then I'm going to write the square of the binomial. So I'm going to have x. Because it is a minus here, I'm going to have a minus here. And then what's in my parentheses is that 6. And then I have the square. Okay, and then for D, I have A equaling 1, B is 3, and then we're looking for C. So I'm going to take 3 divided by 2 squared. So once again, it comes from up here. I can't simplify the 3 divided by 2 squared, so I'm going to apply this 2 to the 3. So 3 squared is 9, and then the 2 squared is 4. I write my trinomial, or my binomial, sorry. So x, it is a positive, so I'm going to have a plus. And then I write what was in the parentheses, so 3 over 2 squared. Okay. Okay, so now for example 2, it is going to be a tad different. We are going to actually be solving now. Okay, so it does say solve, and we do see this equal sign. So those are 2 indicators that we are going to get values for x. Okay, so first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to add some blanks to both sides. So you're going to have x squared minus 16x plus blank is going to equal negative 15 plus blank. Okay, so the reason I added it to both sides is if I add something to one side, I have to do it to the other side. That's just a rule that we've been doing pretty much all of Algebra 1. Okay, so once again, we are going to solve for what the c value would be. So I am going to have negative 16 divided by 2 squared. So this would give me negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8 squared. Well, negative 8 squared gives me a positive 64. So I'm going to put a positive 64 in this blank. Since I added 64 to this side, I have to add 64 to the other side. Okay. So then what we did up here when we got it into the binomial, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to get this into the binomial. So I have x, since it is a minus, I'm going to have a minus, and then whatever we had in our parentheses. So we have this 8, so I'm going to put the 8 there, and then I have a squared. And then this is going to equal, so then I would have it negative 15 plus 64 is going to equal 49. Okay. Alright, so then from here, what I can do to get rid of the square is I take the square root to both sides. So this is what we learned in 9.4. So I have x minus 8 equaling. When I take a square root though, I have to have the plus and the minus. So a positive, and the square root of 49 is 7. So a positive 7 and a negative 7. On your calculators, if you are looking for the square root, if you turn it on, it would be second, and then this button right here. Okay, and then you would type in 49, and that's where that 7 comes from. Okay. Okay, so then from here, I do have 2 different equations happening. I have x minus 8 equaling a positive 7, and I also have the x minus 8 equaling a negative 7. Okay, so then come over here, I add 8 to both sides. So I would have x equaling 15. And then I would add 8, x would equal a positive 1. And those are my 2 answers. Okay, so I'm going to go through that process one more time. If you want to watch, you can. Otherwise, you can pause it and see if you get the correct answer. Okay, so I'm going to have x squared minus 2x plus a blank is going to equal 3 plus a blank. Okay, so then I take my negative 2. I'm dividing it by 2 squared. Okay, so negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1 squared. Negative 1 squared is 1, because a negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Okay, so I'm going to factor this. Okay, so I'm going to have x, since it is a minus, I have a minus. It's going to be whatever is in that parentheses, so that 1's there. Then I square it. Going to equal 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay. So once again, to get rid of the square, I take the square root. So I'd have x minus 1 equals plus or minus 2. Okay. I do have two different equations. So I'm going to have the x minus 1 equaling a positive 2 and x minus 1 equaling a negative 2. Add the 1 to both sides. X is going to be 3. Okay. Add the 1 to both sides. X is going to equal negative 1. Okay. We are going to stop here for today, and then we will continue on with learning this stuff tomorrow.